She planned her best friend's wedding, only to find out the groom was her abusive ex, a billionaire CEO. I know what he did to you was terrible, Clara, but people change. Ethan's different now. Different? Maya, he fractured my ribs. He isolated me from everyone I loved. He threatened to destroy my career if I ever left him. That was 3 years ago. The man I know is kind, generous. The man you know is wearing a mask. I've seen what's underneath, and I promise you, it's a monster. Or maybe you just brought out the worst in him. Did you ever consider that? Have you ever wondered what it would take for someone to betray you in the most devastating way possible? What would you do if your best friend, the person who once held you as you cried, who helped you escape an abusive relationship, suddenly announced she was marrying your abuser, and worse, asked you to plan their wedding? If you've ever trusted someone only to have that trust shattered, this story will resonate deep in your soul. Today, I'm sharing the remarkable tale of a woman who came face to face with her darkest nightmare and found the courage not only to confront her past, but to save her friend from making a terrible mistake. I'm Mr. Harrison, and if stories of courage, betrayal, and redemption speak to you, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to Timeless Love Tales. Your support helps me continue sharing these powerful stories that remind us of the strength of the human spirit. The morning Clara Evans received the call that would upend her carefully reconstructed life began like any other. Sunlight streamed through the gauzy curtains of her apartment as she reviewed the day's appointments, a steaming cup of coffee warming her hands. 3 consultations, a venue walkthrough, and a cake tasting. The comfortable rhythm of a life she had built from scratch after escaping the wreckage of her past. When her phone lit up with Maya's name, Clara answered with genuine warmth. Their friendship had weathered a decade of triumphs and heartbreaks, standing resilient through college, career changes, and Clara's darkest days. Clara, I need your magic touch. Maya's voice bubbled with excitement. I'm getting married. What? Maya, that's incredible. Clara's surprise was genuine. Maya had sworn off serious relationships after a string of disappointments. When did this happen? Who's the lucky guy? A slight pause hung between them, just long enough for Clara to sense something wasn't right. That's why I'm calling, Maya continued, her tone shifting subtly. I need the best wedding planner in the city, and that's you. We're thinking a spring ceremony, something elegant but not stuffy. Of course I'll help, Clara replied, already mentally rearranging her schedule. But you haven't told me who captured the heart of my commitment-phobic best friend. Another pause, longer this time. Ethan, Maya said finally. Ethan Ward. The name hit Clara like a physical blow, stealing her breath and sending her coffee cup crashing to the floor. Ceramic shattered, dark liquid seeping into the pristine white rug, a stain spreading just as panic spread through her chest. Clara? Are you there? Maya's voice seemed to come from miles away. I must have misheard you, Clara managed, her voice barely a whisper. You couldn't have said Ethan Ward. I know this is a shock, Maya continued, her words carefully measured. But he's changed, Clara. He's not the same man you knew. Not the same man. The phrase echoed hollowly in Clara's mind as memories flooded back. Memories she had spent 3 years burying. Ethan's charming smile when they first met at that charity gala. The lavish gifts that appeared after their first argument. The private jet trips to Paris for dinner. The gradual isolation from friends and family. The first time his hand closed around her wrist with bruising force. The last night, when she had finally gathered the courage to leave, blood trickling from her split lip as she threw whatever she could grab into a suitcase. And through it all, Maya had been there. Maya, who had answered Clara's desperate 2 a.m. call. Maya, who had opened her door without question and held Clara as she sobbed. Maya, who had seen the bruises, who had helped Clara file the restraining order, who knew every excruciating detail of Ethan's escalating abuse. You know what he did to me? Clara said, her voice steadying with disbelief. You were there, Maya. You saw everything. I know what you told me, Maya replied, a new edge to her voice. But there are always 2 sides to every story. Ethan's been in therapy for years. He's taken responsibility for his mistakes. Mistakes. as if the systematic destruction of Clara's self-worth, the physical and emotional scars she still carried, could be dismissed as simple errors in judgment. "This is insane," Clara whispered. "You can't possibly expect me to plan your wedding to the man who you were going to marry once?" Maya interrupted. "The man who showered you with everything a woman could want before things went wrong?" "Yes, Clara, that's exactly what I'm asking. Because that's what best friends do. They support each other, even when it's difficult." The manipulation was so transparent it was almost laughable. Yet beneath Maya's words, Clara detected something else. Something that chilled her more than the request itself. A hint of satisfaction, of triumph. "I need to go," Clara said abruptly. "I'll call you back." She ended the call before Maya could respond, then sank to the floor beside the broken cup, her hands trembling. The pieces didn't fit. Maya had been her rock, her fiercest defender when Ethan had tried to contact her after the breakup. What could possibly have changed? The answer came in a flash of clarity that made her stomach turn. The lingering glances whenever Ethan had brought Clara expensive gifts. The subtle comments about how lucky Clara was to have found someone so generous, so attentive. The strange mixture of concern and fascination whenever Clara revealed another instance of Ethan's controlling behavior. Maya hadn't just been supporting her friend through abuse. She had been envying her for it. The realization was like ice water in Clara's veins. While she had been fighting to survive, Maya had been coveting the gilded cage that had nearly destroyed her. And now, somehow, Ethan had found his way to Maya, recognized the weakness, and exploited it masterfully. Clara's phone buzzed with a text message. "I know this is a lot to process, but I really need you, Clara. No one understands my vision like you do. Lunch tomorrow? The Ivy at 1. The casual normality of the invitation was perhaps the most disturbing part. As if Maya were asking Clara to help choose bridesmaid dresses, not forcing her to confront the architect of her nightmares. If you're shocked by this betrayal, hit that like button. And if you've ever had to face someone who hurt you deeply, let me know in the comments below. Your experiences matter, and sharing them might help others recognize similar patterns in their own lives. Clara stared at the message, her mind racing. She could refuse. She should refuse. Every instinct screamed at her to block Maya's number, to reinforce the restraining order against Ethan, to run as far and as fast as she could from this toxic situation. But a smaller, quieter voice whispered a different perspective. If Maya was truly under Ethan's spell, she was in danger. The same danger Clara had barely escaped. And if this was some twisted form of revenge from either or both of them, walking away would only leave her wondering when and how they might strike next. Knowledge was power. Proximity was control. Hadn't Clara learned that lesson the hardest way possible? Her fingers hovered over the phone screen before typing, "I'll be there." As she began cleaning up the broken cup and coffee stain, Clara's mind shifted into a familiar mode. The strategic planning that had helped her survive Ethan, that had rebuilt her career from nothing, that had transformed her from victim to victor. If Maya and Ethan wanted her involved in their charade, she would be involved, but on her terms, with her eyes wide open. The next day, Clara arrived at the Ivy 15 minutes early, choosing a table with a clear view of the entrance and her back to the wall, habits she'd developed during her recovery. She ordered sparkling water and tried to steady her breathing as she waited. Maya arrived first, looking more polished than Clara had ever seen her. Designer clothes, perfect makeup, diamond earrings that caught the light, all hallmarks of Ethan's influence. They embraced awkwardly, the familiar warmth of their friendship now chilled by the unspoken betrayal hanging between them. "Thank you for coming," Maya said, sliding into her seat. "I know this isn't easy." "That's quite an understatement," Clara replied, keeping her voice level. "Where is he?" "On his way. He had a board meeting that ran long." Maya fidgeted with her napkin. "His company just acquired another tech startup. 9th one this year." Clara nodded, remembering how Ethan had always used his business success as both shield and weapon. "Maya, before he gets here, I need to ask you something. How did this happen? How did you go from helping me escape him to agreeing to marry him?" Maya's eyes dropped to the table. It wasn't planned. We ran into each other at the charity gala for children's literacy 6 months ago. He approached me, apologized for everything that happened between you two. Said he'd been in therapy, that he recognized his toxic behavior patterns. She looked up, a pleading expression on her face. He seemed so sincere, Clara, so changed. That's how it always begins, Clara said quietly. The charm, the apologies, the promises. It's part of the cycle. Before Maya could respond, a ripple of awareness passed through the restaurant. Heads turned, voices lowered, and Clara felt a familiar chill crawl up her spine even before she saw him. Ethan Ward moved through the space with the easy confidence of a man accustomed to commanding attention. Impeccably dressed in a tailored suit that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent, he radiated wealth and power. His dark hair was styled perfectly, his jawline sharp enough to cut glass, his smile dazzling as he greeted the maitre d' by name. Then his eyes found their table, and for a split second Clara saw it. The flash of something cold and calculating before his expression smoothed into pleasant surprise. Clara, he said, his voice as rich and smooth as she remembered. It's been too long. Clara felt her body tense as Ethan approached their table. 3 years of therapy had prepared her for this moment, but nothing could fully eliminate the visceral response her body had to his presence. Ethan, she replied, her voice steadier than she felt. I wish I could say it's good to see you. His laugh was warm and disarming as he bent to kiss Maya's cheek before taking his seat. Still direct as ever. I've always admired that about you. The casual compliment, delivered with such apparent sincerity, was exactly the kind of manipulation tactic Clara had learned to recognize. She watched as Maya beamed at him, clearly interpreting the exchange as a positive sign. I ordered your usual, Maya told him, touching his arm with familiar affection. The chef said he'd prepare it specially. You're thoughtful as always, Ethan replied, his attention fully on Maya for a moment before turning back to Clara. I imagine this situation is uncomfortable for you. I want you to know how much I appreciate your willingness to help plan our wedding. It means everything to Maya. Clara took a slow sip of her water, buying time to compose her response. Maya has been my best friend for over a decade. Her happiness matters to me. And that's exactly why I wanted to clear the air immediately, Ethan said, leaning forward slightly. What happened between us was inexcusable. I was a different person then, driven by insecurities and anger issues I hadn't addressed. The man who hurt you isn't who I am anymore. The rehearsed quality of his words made Clara's skin crawl. How many times had she heard similar promises during their relationship? How many tearful apologies had been followed by escalating violence? People don't change that fundamentally, Ethan, Clara said quietly. Especially not men with your resources and power. Why would they need to? Maya shifted uncomfortably. Clara, please. He's trying. It's all right, Ethan said, placing his hand over Maya's. Clara has every reason to be skeptical. I'd be concerned if she wasn't. He turned his gaze back to Clara, his eyes softening with what appeared to be genuine remorse. 3 years of intensive therapy, anger management, and medication have made a difference. I can't undo what I did to you, but I can be better for Maya. That's all I'm asking you to believe. The waiter arrived with their meals, providing Clara with a momentary reprieve from the conversation. She watched as Ethan thanked the server by name, asking about his children with what seemed like genuine interest. Another performance, or had he truly changed? So, Ethan continued once the waiter had left. Maya tells me your wedding planning business has become quite successful. I've heard wonderful things about your work from several associates who've used your services. The implication that he'd been keeping tabs on her career wasn't lost on Clara. Yes, I've been fortunate. Turns out rebuilding your life from scratch gives you a certain perspective on what truly matters to people on their special day. I can imagine, Ethan replied smoothly. And now you'll bring that insight to our celebration. Maya insists you're the only one who could possibly understand her vision. Maya brightened. That's why this lunch is so perfect. We can start discussing ideas right away. I'm thinking a spring ceremony at Ethan's estate in the Hamptons. Something intimate but elegant. The Hamptons estate, Clara repeated, memories flooding back of weekends spent there during their relationship, the isolation of the property, the way Ethan had once locked her in the guest house for embarrassing him in front of his business associates. We've renovated extensively, Ethan said, reading her expression. It's practically a different place now. Just like you're a different person? Clara wanted to ask, but held her tongue. Instead, she pulled out her professional portfolio, shifting into wedding planner mode. Why don't you tell me what you both envision for your day? Every couple has unique priorities. As Maya enthusiastically described her dream wedding, the flowers, the music, the gourmet menu, Clara observed the dynamic between them, the way Ethan subtly guided Maya's choices, the slight tightening around his eyes when she expressed an opinion that differed from his, the practiced patience that Clara recognized all too well. And of course, we'll spare no expense, Ethan added, his hand covering Maya's again in a gesture that looked loving but felt possessive. I want this to be everything Maya deserves. Budget certainly opens up options, Clara acknowledged, making notes. Though sometimes constraints can lead to more meaningful choices. Ethan's smile didn't reach his eyes. Fortunately, we don't have to choose between meaningful and extravagant. I believe Maya deserves both. The meal continued with surface-level pleasantries, but Clara felt the undercurrent of tension. When Maya excused herself to use the restroom, the facade dropped immediately. Let's not pretend, Clara, Ethan said, his voice low and controlled. We both know why you're here, and it's not out of friendship to Maya. Clara met his gaze steadily. I'm here because I care about her safety. You're here because you can't stand the thought that she chose me, that she sees the man I truly am, not the monster you've painted me as. His perfect veneer cracked slightly, revealing a glimpse of the rage she remembered. Or perhaps you're just jealous that she'll have the life you threw away. The life I escaped, Clara corrected, her heart pounding but her voice calm. And if you've truly changed, you wouldn't be speaking to me this way the moment Maya leaves the table. Ethan's expression smoothed back into pleasant neutrality as he saw Maya returning. Just remember, he murmured, I've rebuilt my life too. My company has tripled in value. My influence has grown. Crossing me would be unwise. The threat hung in the air between them as Maya rejoined them, oblivious to the exchange that had just occurred. So, are we all set? Maya asked brightly. Clara, can you work with us? Clara looked between them, Maya's hopeful expression and Ethan's challenging stare, and made her decision. Yes, I'll plan your wedding, but I have some conditions. If you're feeling the tension in this situation, give this video a thumbs up. Sometimes the hardest decisions are the ones where all options seem impossible. Conditions. Maya frowned. What kind of conditions? Professional boundaries, Clara clarified. I'll need complete creative control within your budget and preferences. I'll require direct access to both of you for decisions, but separately when necessary for efficiency. And I'll need your trust that I'm making recommendations based on my professional experience. What she didn't say was that these professional boundaries would give her the space to observe Ethan's behavior patterns without his constant supervision, to speak with Maya alone, and to document any concerning incidents. That seems reasonable, Ethan said with a magnanimous smile. Doesn't it, darling? Maya nodded, relief evident in her expression. Absolutely. Whatever you need, Clara. Then we have a deal, Clara said, extending her hand professionally. When Ethan took it, his grip tightened just enough to send a clear message, one that Clara pretended not to notice. As they parted ways outside the restaurant, Maya hugged Clara tightly. Thank you, she whispered. This means everything to me. I know, Clara replied, hugging her back. That's why I'm doing it. Watching them drive away in Ethan's luxury car, Clara took a deep breath and called her therapist. Dr. Winters? I need an emergency session. I've just agreed to plan my abusive ex's wedding to my best friend, and I need to make sure I'm doing this for the right reasons. 2 hours later, Clara sat in her therapist's office, having recounted the entire lunch meeting in detail. What you're proposing is extremely risky, Dr. Winters said, her expression concerned. Placing yourself in proximity to your abuser could trigger severe trauma responses, not to mention potentially putting you in physical danger again. I understand the risks, Clara replied. But if I walk away, Maya has no one. She's isolated just like I was. At least this way, I can watch for the warning signs, document them, maybe help her see the truth before it's too late. Dr. Winters sighed. Your instinct to protect your friend is admirable, but remember our work on boundaries. You cannot save someone who doesn't want to be saved. I know, Clara acknowledged, but I can be there when she's ready to see the truth. And in the meantime, I can protect myself better than I could 3 years ago. I know his patterns now. I understand the manipulation tactics. If you're determined to do this, we need to establish safety protocols, Dr. Winters insisted. Regular check-ins, a support person who knows your whereabouts at all times, and immediate withdrawal if you feel your mental health or physical safety is at risk. Clara nodded, grateful for the practical approach. I've already contacted my attorney about the restraining order implications. Since this is a professional relationship and Maya will be present at all meetings, we're technically not violating the order. Technically legal doesn't mean emotionally safe, Dr. Winters reminded her. Promise me you'll prioritize your well-being through this process. I promise, Clara said, though they both knew the situation had already compromised that priority. As Clara left the session, her phone chimed with a text from Maya. Ethan loved you, says you're even more talented and professional than he remembered. First venue visit tomorrow? The Four Seasons at 10 a.m. Clara stared at the message, the casual tone so disconnected from the reality of what was happening. She typed back a simple confirmation, then opened her contact list and called the one person she knew would understand the gravity of the situation. Alex? This is Clara. I need your help with something complicated. Alex Chun had been Clara's attorney during the restraining order process and had seen firsthand the evidence of Ethan's abuse. His voice was immediately concerned. What's happened? Has he contacted you? It's worse than that, Clara replied, explaining the situation as she walked to her car. I need to know what legal protections I can put in place while I do this. Clara, Alex's voice was deadly serious. This man put you in the hospital. No wedding is worth risking that again. It's not about the wedding, Clara insisted. It's about Maya. She doesn't see what he is yet, but she will. And when that happens, she'll need someone who understands, someone who can help her escape like I did. The silence on the other end of the line spoke volumes about Alex's opinion of this plan. At least help me document everything properly, Clara pressed. In case it becomes necessary later. Come to my office tomorrow afternoon, Alex finally agreed. We'll discuss what evidence would be admissible and how to collect it legally. But Clara, promise me one thing. What's that? The first sign that he's fixating on you again, you walk away. No matter what. Clara thought about Maya, about the bruises she herself had hidden under long sleeves and makeup, about the isolation and fear that had become her constant companions during her relationship with Ethan. I'll be careful, she promised, knowing it wasn't exactly what Alex had asked for. That night, Clara couldn't sleep. She paced her apartment, reviewing old journal entries from her time with Ethan, reminding herself of the patterns, the warning signs she had missed or ignored. The love bombing at the beginning, extravagant gifts, constant attention, whirlwind romance. The gradual isolation from friends and family. The criticism disguised as concern. The explosive anger followed by profound remorse and promises to change. Was Maya experiencing the same cycle? Or had Ethan truly changed? Clara pulled out her wedding planning portfolio and began a new section, labeled simply NM. But unlike her other client files, this one contained 2 sets of notes, one for the actual wedding plans, and another documenting every interaction, every red flag, every potential warning sign that Maya might need to see eventually. As dawn broke, Clara finally fell into a restless sleep, dreaming of white dresses stained with blood and wedding vows that sounded eerily like threats. The Four Seasons hotel lobby exuded luxury, with its soaring ceilings, marble floors, and tasteful floral arrangements. Clara arrived early, as was her professional habit, and used the time to center herself. She reviewed her notes, checked her recording app, legal in their state with one-party consent, and took several deep breaths. Maya arrived alone, a small mercy Clara hadn't expected. "Ethan sends his apologies," Maya explained, kissing Clara's cheek in greeting. "Emergency board meeting. Some acquisition in Singapore that couldn't wait." "That's fine," Clara replied, relief evident in her voice despite her attempt at neutrality. "We can get more done without distractions anyway." The hotel's event coordinator led them through various reception spaces, each more opulent than the last. Clara maintained her professional demeanor, asking detailed questions about capacity, lighting options, and catering restrictions. But she couldn't help noticing how Maya deferred to what she thought Ethan would prefer, rather than expressing her own preferences. "This ballroom has the grandeur Ethan would love," Maya commented in one space. Then in another, "I'm not sure this aligns with Ethan's vision." After the third such comment, Clara paused their tour. "Maya, what do you want? Forget Ethan's vision for a moment. This is your wedding too." Maya looked startled by the question. "Of course, but Ethan has such excellent taste. And he's the one paying for everything, so naturally his preferences matter." "They matter," Clara agreed carefully, "but they shouldn't override yours. Marriage is a partnership." Something flickered across Maya's face. Doubt, perhaps, or a moment of clarity, before she smiled brightly. "You're right. I think I prefer the garden terrace. It feels more me." "Then that's what we'll recommend," Clara said, making a note. "We can present it to Ethan as the optimal choice for the aesthetic you both discussed." As they continued the tour, Clara gently guided Maya to express more of her own preferences, noting how her friend seemed to grow more animated when allowed to imagine the wedding she truly wanted rather than the one she thought Ethan expected. Over lunch in the hotel's restaurant, Clara steered the conversation toward their relationship. "Tell me how you and Ethan reconnected. I want to understand your journey together." Maya's eyes lit up. "It was so unexpected. I was at the Children's Literacy Foundation Gala, you remember. I serve on their fundraising committee. Ethan was a major donor. He approached me, very respectfully, and simply apologized for how things had ended between you two. Just like that." Clara kept her tone neutral, though her skepticism ran deep. "Well, not exactly. He acknowledged that he'd behaved terribly, said he'd been in therapy working on his anger issues and control tendencies." Maya toyed with her salad. "He didn't ask for anything, not forgiveness, not to relay a message to you. He just wanted me to know he recognized the harm he'd caused." Clara nodded, recognizing the strategy. Ethan had always been skilled at appearing humble when it served his purposes. "I was suspicious at first," Maya continued, "but then I kept seeing him at charity events, always respectful, never pushing. He donated $1 million to the literacy program. Eventually, we started talking more, then having coffee after committee meetings." She smiled at the memory. "He was different, Clara. Thoughtful. He listened instead of dominating conversations." "And when did it become romantic?" Clara asked, watching Maya's expression carefully. "About 3 months ago. He invited me to the symphony, in a group setting with other board members, very proper. Afterward, he asked if he could see me privately." Maya's cheeks flushed slightly. "I actually brought up my concerns about his history with you. He didn't get defensive at all. He said he understood my hesitation and would respect whatever boundaries I needed. The calculated patience was classic Ethan. He'd played the long game, establishing himself as changed and trustworthy before making any romantic overtures." Clara remembered how he'd pursued her with similar strategic patience, learning her interests and vulnerabilities before moving in. "He's been nothing but gentle and considerate," Maya added, misreading Clara's silence. "Nothing like what you experienced." "I'm glad," Clara lied, forcing a smile. "You deserve that kind of treatment." As they were finishing lunch, Maya's phone chimed with a text. Her expression changed subtly as she read it. "Ethan's meeting ended early. He's joining us for the rest of the afternoon." Clara nodded, mentally shifting gears. Perfect timing. We've narrowed down the venue options and can get his input. 20 minutes later, Ethan strode into the restaurant, commanding attention without effort. He greeted Maya with a kiss that was just a fraction too possessive, then turned to Clara with a practiced smile. How's the venue hunt going? Found anything worthy of my bride-to-be? Actually, Maya has some excellent insights, Clara replied, deliberately centering her friend in the conversation. She's leaning toward the garden terrace for the ceremony. The garden terrace? Ethan's smile remained fixed, but Clara caught the slight narrowing of his eyes. I was thinking the grand ballroom would better accommodate our guest list. The terrace can actually hold up to 250 guests, Clara countered smoothly, and it offers better natural light for photography, which Maya mentioned was important to her. Ethan turned to Maya, his expression softening in a way Clara recognized as calculated. Is that what you want, darling? The terrace? Put on the spot, Maya hesitated. I thought it was beautiful, but if you prefer the ballroom, I want whatever makes you happy, Ethan said, though the slight tension in his jaw told Clara otherwise. The terrace made her eyes light up, Clara interjected, maintaining her professional tone. As her wedding planner, I'd recommend we prioritize that reaction. We can always use the ballroom for the reception if you prefer that grandeur for the main celebration. Ethan's gaze shifted to Clara, something dangerous flickering behind his pleasant expression. A compromise. I like it. He turned back to Maya. The terrace it is, my love. Your happiness is all that matters. If you've ever watched someone say the right words while their eyes told a completely different story, hit that like button. Sometimes the most important warnings come not from what people say, but from what their body language reveals. The rest of the afternoon passed in a similar pattern. Maya would express a preference, Ethan would subtly redirect toward his own vision, and Clara would find diplomatic ways to advocate for Maya's original choice. By the end of the day, they had secured the garden terrace for the ceremony and the smaller, more intimate azure ballroom for the reception, both reflecting more of Maya's taste than Ethan's preference for ostentatious display. As they prepared to leave, Ethan placed his hand on Clara's arm, stopping her. Maya, would you mind getting the car? I just need a quick word with Clara about the deposit arrangements. Maya nodded and headed toward the valet stand, leaving Clara alone with Ethan for the first time since their lunch. You're overstepping, he said quietly, his smile never wavering though his eyes had turned cold. Maya asked for your professional expertise, not your interference in our relationship. Clara maintained her composure. My job is to ensure both parties are heard in the planning process. That's all I'm doing. No, Ethan replied, his grip tightening slightly on her arm. You're trying to drive a wedge between us, encouraging her to contradict me. That stops now. Clara looked pointedly at his hand until he released her. Maya hired me because she trusts my judgment. If you want a wedding planner who simply rubber stamps your decisions, I'm not the right person for this job. Oh, but you are exactly the right person, Ethan said, his voice dropping to a near whisper. Who else could appreciate the beautiful symmetry of this situation? You planning the wedding that should have been yours. The cruelty of the statement hit Clara like a physical blow, but she refused to show it. Is that what this is about? Some twisted form of revenge? Ethan laughed softly. Revenge implies I care enough to want to hurt you. This is simply poetic justice. You left me when I was at my lowest. Now you get to witness me at my highest, with a woman who appreciates what you threw away. Maya knows what you did to me, Clara reminded him. She saw the bruises, the broken ribs, the fear. And yet here she is wearing my ring, Ethan countered. What does that tell you about how convincing your story really was? Before Clara could respond, Maya reappeared at the hotel entrance, waving to indicate the car was ready. Ethan's expression immediately transformed back into the doting fiancé. We'll continue this discussion another time, he said pleasantly. Maya and I are hosting a dinner party next Friday to announce our engagement formally. As our wedding planner, your presence is expected. 7 o'clock, my penthouse. It wasn't an invitation but a command, and they both knew it. "I'll check my calendar," Clara replied evenly. "Do that," Ethan said, then added with deliberate emphasis. It would be a shame to disappoint Maya. As Clara watched them drive away, the weight of what she'd undertaken settled heavily on her shoulders. Ethan hadn't changed at all. He'd simply become more sophisticated in his manipulation. And now he was using Maya's trust and Clara's concern against both of them. That evening, Clara met with Alex at his law office, recounting the day's events and playing back the recording of her private conversation with Ethan. "This confirms he's targeting you specifically," Alex said, his expression grim. "The comment about the wedding that should have been yours makes his intentions clear. But it doesn't prove he's abusing Maya," Clara pointed out. "It just shows he's still vindictive toward me." "Abusers rarely change their patterns completely," Alex reminded her. "They just adapt them to new circumstances. The fact that he's already isolating you and Maya for private conversations where his demeanor changes is textbook." Clara nodded, remembering the pattern all too well. "He's invited me, or rather, commanded me, to attend their engagement dinner next Friday. At his penthouse." Alex frowned. "The same penthouse where he—" "Yes," Clara interrupted, not needing the reminder of what had happened there. "The same one." "I strongly advise against going," Alex said firmly. "That location holds traumatic memories for you, and it gives him home field advantage. If I don't go, I lose whatever influence I have with Maya," Clara argued. "She needs to see that I'm trying, that my concerns aren't just jealousy or bitterness." Alex sighed, recognizing the determination in her voice. "Then we need additional safeguards. I want you to wear this." He pulled out what looked like an elegant pendant necklace. "It's a panic button connected to a security service. One press sends your GPS location to them and to me, along with an alert that you're in danger." Clara took the necklace, turning it over in her hands. "You really think it could come to that?" "I hope not," Alex replied. "But Ethan Ward put you in the hospital once. I'm not taking chances with your safety again." As Clara left Alex's office, her phone chimed with a text from Maya. "Ethan just told me he's giving me his grandmother's diamonds to wear for the wedding. Can you believe it? The necklace alone is worth millions. I'm still in shock. See why I know he's changed? He never gave these family heirlooms to anyone before. Not even you." The message confirmed what Clara already suspected. Ethan was using his wealth to dazzle Maya, creating a fantasy that would be increasingly difficult to walk away from. The explicit comparison to Clara wasn't Maya's usual style. It had Ethan's fingerprints all over it, a subtle way of driving a wedge between the friends. Clara typed back a simple congratulations, then added, "Just remember, the most valuable thing he can give you is respect and equality in your relationship. Everything else is just window dressing." She hit send, then immediately received another message, this one from Ethan himself. "Looking forward to having you in our home next Friday. For old time's sake." Clara stared at the message, her heart racing as memories flooded back. Glass shattering against the wall inches from her head, her belongings thrown from the balcony, the cold marble floor against her cheek as she lost consciousness. With trembling fingers, she deleted the message without responding, then called Dr. Winters to schedule an emergency session. If she was going back to that penthouse, she needed all the psychological armor she could get. The week leading up to the engagement dinner passed in a blur of wedding preparations. Clara threw herself into the work, researching florists, photographers, and caterers with the same meticulous attention she gave all her clients. But beneath her professional exterior, anxiety built with each passing day. She met with Maya twice more, once to review potential photographers and once for a preliminary discussion about floral arrangements. Ethan was conspicuously absent from these meetings, which allowed Maya to speak more freely about her preferences. "I've always loved wildflowers," Maya admitted during their floral consultation. "Something natural and a bit untamed." "That would be beautiful with the garden terrace," Clara encouraged. "We could create an organic, romantic atmosphere that feels authentic to you." Maya hesitated. Ethan mentioned classic roses. White and red, very traditional. What if we compromise? Clara suggested. Classic roses for the formal elements like the bridal bouquet, with wildflowers incorporated throughout the venue design. That way, both visions are honored. The relief on Maya's face was palpable. That sounds perfect. You always know how to make things work. These small victories kept Clara going, even as her dread about the engagement dinner intensified. Each time Maya deferred to Ethan's preferences, each time she mentioned another extravagant gift or grand gesture, Clara documented it in her growing file of concerning patterns. Friday evening arrived too quickly. Clara stood outside Ethan's luxury high-rise, the panic button necklace cool against her skin beneath her dress. She'd chosen her outfit carefully, professional but confident, a deep blue sheath dress that reminded her of the armor she'd built around herself since leaving Ethan. "You can do this," she whispered to herself as the elevator ascended to the penthouse level. "You're not the same person he broke." The doors opened directly into Ethan's foyer, a space designed to impress with its soaring ceilings, modern art, and panoramic city views. Clara's breath caught as memories assaulted her. Both beautiful and terrible moments lived within these walls. "Clara!" Maya rushed forward to greet her, resplendent in a designer gown, the promised diamond necklace glittering at her throat. "I'm so glad you're here. Come meet everyone." The penthouse was filled with about 30 guests, business associates, socialites, and a few faces Clara recognized from her own past with Ethan. She felt their curious glances, knew they were wondering about her presence at her ex-fiancé's engagement party. Ethan materialized beside them, champagne flutes in hand. "Clara, you look well." He offered her a glass with practiced charm. "I trust you found the place without difficulty?" The subtle reminder of her familiarity with his home wasn't lost on her. "Some places are impossible to forget," she replied, accepting the champagne but not drinking it. "Indeed." His smile didn't reach his eyes. "Maya, darling, the Andersons just arrived. Why don't you greet them while I catch up with Clara?" Maya glanced between them, a flicker of uncertainty crossing her face before she nodded and moved away. The moment she was out of earshot, Ethan's demeanor shifted subtly. "Quite the full-circle moment, isn't it?" he said, gesturing around the penthouse. "You back in our home, helping plan another woman's wedding to me." "This was never our home," Clara corrected him quietly. "It was always yours. Your space, your rules, your control." Ethan's laugh held no warmth. "Still bitter after all this time? I would have thought you'd moved on, built that independent life you so desperately wanted." "I have," Clara replied, "which is why I can stand here now, looking you in the eye without fear." Something dangerous flashed across his face. "Is that what you think? That you have nothing to fear from me anymore?" "I know exactly what you're capable of," Clara said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "The difference is, now other people will too if you try anything." Before Ethan could respond, a server approached with hors d'oeuvres, breaking the tension. Ethan immediately switched back to charming host mode, complimenting the server's presentation before turning to greet another arriving guest. Clara used the opportunity to circulate through the party, observing the dynamics between Ethan and Maya. She noticed how he kept Maya close, his hand always somewhere on her body, her waist, her arm, the small of her back. How he subtly directed her conversations, interjecting when she spoke too long with any one person. How Maya's eyes constantly sought his approval after she expressed an opinion. All patterns Clara recognized from her own relationship with him. Midway through the evening, Ethan clinked his glass for attention. "I'd like to thank everyone for coming tonight to celebrate our engagement," he announced, pulling Maya close to his side. "When I met Maya, I was at a crossroads in my life. I had achieved everything I wanted professionally, but personally," he paused for effect, "I had made serious mistakes." The room grew quiet, guests exchanging glances at this unexpected turn toward vulnerability from the normally composed CEO. "Maya saw something in me worth saving," Ethan continued. "She believed I could be a better man, and for her I wanted to be." He turned to Maya, his expression softening. "You've helped me understand what real partnership means, what real love looks like. Maya's eyes shimmered with tears as guests murmured appreciatively at the romantic declaration. Clara watched, recognizing the performance for what it was. Another manipulation tactic, positioning himself as the reformed bad boy saved by the love of a good woman. And I'd be remiss not to acknowledge someone else who helped make this night possible, Ethan added, his gaze finding Clara in the crowd. My former fiancée, Clara Evans, who has graciously agreed to plan our wedding. Her forgiveness and support demonstrate the kind of extraordinary person she is. All eyes turned to Clara, who maintained her composed smile despite the rage building inside her. This was classic Ethan, using a public forum to control the narrative, to paint himself as magnanimous while subtly reminding everyone of his power over the situation. To new beginnings, Ethan concluded, raising his glass, and to the extraordinary women who make them possible. As guests applauded and sipped their champagne, Clara excused herself to the powder room, needing a moment alone to collect herself. The bathroom was unchanged from her time living there. The same marble vanity where she'd once covered bruises with makeup, the same ornate mirror that had reflected her diminishing sense of self. The door opened behind her, and Maya entered, her expression concerned. Are you okay? You seemed upset during Ethan's toast. Clara chose her words carefully. It's just strange being back here, with all these memories. Maya nodded sympathetically. I should have been more sensitive to that. I'm sorry. It's not your fault, Clara assured her. But Maya, can I ask you something? Does Ethan ever make you feel controlled? Like your choices aren't really your own? Maya's expression shifted, a defensive wall coming up. He's decisive, that's all. He knows what he wants. There's a difference between being decisive and being controlling, Clara pressed gently. The flowers, the venue, even your dress, you've deferred to his preferences on everything. Because I value his opinion, Maya replied, a hint of irritation creeping into her voice. Not everyone views compromise as surrender, Clara. It's not compromise when only one person is giving in, Clara pointed out. When was the last time Ethan deferred to your preference on something important? Maya was silent for a moment, then shook her head. You don't understand our relationship. It's different from what you experienced. I hope it is, Clara said sincerely. I just worry because I see patterns that feel familiar. Maybe you're seeing what you expect to see, Maya suggested, her tone cooling. Ethan warned me you might have trouble accepting our happiness. The statement hit Clara like a slap. He's been talking to you about me? Only because he was concerned this might be difficult for you, Maya explained, though she wouldn't meet Clara's eyes. He thought you might misinterpret his actions because of your history. Classic isolation tactic, planting seeds of doubt about the one person who might recognize the abuse. Clara had seen Ethan use it before with her own friends. Maya, Clara said carefully, I want you to be happy. That's all I've ever wanted. But happiness built on control isn't real happiness. It's a cage with gilded bars. I think you should go, Maya replied, her voice tight. You're clearly not in the right headspace for this evening. Maya, please, Clara, don't make this harder than it needs to be. Recognizing she'd pushed too far too fast, Clara nodded. I'll go, but I'm here if you need me. Day or night, no questions asked. Maya didn't respond, simply turned and left the bathroom, leaving Clara alone with her reflection and the sinking feeling that she was losing this battle. As Clara gathered her purse to leave, she found Ethan waiting in the hallway outside the bathroom, his expression triumphant. Leaving so soon? He asked, blocking her path slightly. The party's just getting started. I think we both know my role here is finished, Clara replied, keeping her voice steady. You've made your point. Have I? Ethan stepped closer, invading her personal space in the way he knew she hated. And what point would that be? That you can take everything from me, again. My best friend, my business opportunity, my peace of mind. Clara met his gaze unflinchingly. But you're forgetting something important. And what's that? I survived you once. I can do it again. She moved to step around him. And this time, I'm not alone. Ethan's hand shot out, gripping her wrist with painful force. You think you know what's happening here, but you don't. Maya isn't you. She understands what I need, what I deserve. She won't leave. Let go of me, Clara said quietly, her finger hovering near the panic button at her neck. Or what? Ethan challenged, his grip tightening. You'll make a scene? Embarrass yourself in front of everyone? Go ahead. See who they believe. The successful CEO or his bitter ex. Ethan? Maya's voice came from the end of the hallway. What's going on? Ethan released Clara immediately, his expression transforming into concern. Clara was feeling unwell. I was just checking if she needed anything before she left. But Maya's eyes were fixed on Clara's wrist, where red marks were already forming. Clara? For a moment, Clara considered lying, smoothing things over to maintain her access to Maya. But seeing the familiar marks on her skin, she made a different choice. He grabbed me, she said simply, because I was leaving without his permission. That's absurd, Ethan scoffed. She tripped, and I caught her arm to steady her. Tell her, Clara. Tell her how you've always had a flair for dramatics. Maya looked between them, uncertainty clear in her expression. I don't understand what's happening. What's happening, Clara said gently, is exactly what happened 3 years ago. The private Ethan is very different from the public one. She's lying? Ethan insisted, his charm slipping as anger edged into his voice. Maya, you know me. You know I've changed. Maya stepped closer, examining Clara's wrist more carefully. Something shifted in her expression, recognition, perhaps, or memory. I think you should both leave, Maya said finally, her voice trembling slightly. I need to think. Maya, darling. Ethan began, reaching for her. Don't. Maya stepped back. Just give me some space, please. The request seemed to stun Ethan momentarily, giving Clara the opportunity to move past him toward the elevator. As the doors closed, she caught a final glimpse of the scene. Maya backing away from Ethan's outstretched hand, confusion and the first hints of fear on her face. If you've ever had that moment of clarity when you finally see someone for who they truly are, hit that like button. Sometimes the truth arrives in small moments that change everything. The next morning, Clara's phone rang at 6 a.m. Maya's name flashed on the screen. Maya, are you okay? Clara answered immediately, fully awake despite the early hour. No. Maya's voice was small, fragile. Can you come get me? I'm at the Westside Marriott, room 412. I'll be there in 20 minutes, Clara promised, already reaching for her clothes. When Maya opened the hotel room door, Clara barely recognized her friend. Gone was the polished socialite from the night before, replaced by a woman with smudged makeup, red-rimmed eyes, and a haunted expression Clara knew all too well. He didn't hit me, Maya said immediately, as if reading Clara's thoughts. But after you left, it was like a mask fell away. He was so angry, Clara. Scary angry. Clara guided Maya to sit on the edge of the bed. What happened? I asked him about your wrist, why he'd grabbed you like that. He said you were trying to cause problems, that you'd always been jealous of his success. Maya's voice shook. When I pressed him, he started listing all these ways you'd supposedly tried to sabotage our relationship. Things that never happened. Clara nodded, remembering how Ethan had rewritten their history too, casting her as the villain in their relationship's collapse. Then I remembered something, Maya continued. Something you said to me the night you left him. You said, it's never about what it seems to be about with him. So I asked him what was really bothering him. And he exploded, started raging about respect and loyalty and knowing my place. Maya looked up, tears streaming down her face. It was like watching a stranger take over his body. He knocked over a vase, and the way it shattered, I saw myself in those pieces, Clara. I saw what would happen if I stayed. Clara took Maya's hands in hers. So you left. Maya nodded. I waited until he stormed out to get some air, then packed a bag and came here. He's called 37 times since midnight. She gestured to her phone, which was buzzing again with Ethan's name on the screen. What do you need from me? Clara asked, focusing on the immediate situation rather than the vindication she felt. "Help," Maya said simply. "I don't know how to get out of this. The wedding deposits, the announcements, his business connections to my family's foundation. It's all so tangled." "One step at a time," Clara assured her. "First, we document everything, the calls, the texts, what happened last night. Then we contact my attorney, Alex. He helped me with the restraining order process." "A restraining order," Maya repeated, as if testing how the words felt. "Against the man I was going to marry. The man who showed you who he really is last night," Clara reminded her gently. "The man who would have eventually done to you what he did to me." Maya was quiet for a long moment. "I didn't want to believe you," she finally admitted. "Not because I didn't trust you, but because I needed to believe people could change. That someone like Ethan, brilliant, successful, charismatic, could recognize his flaws and overcome them. Some people can change," Clara acknowledged, "but they have to want it for themselves, not as a means to an end. Ethan wanted you, not transformation." "I feel so stupid," Maya whispered. "All the signs were there. The way he isolated me from friends, controlled our social calendar, criticized little things about my appearance or behavior. I saw it all but explained it away. Because that's what abusers count on," Clara said. "They don't start with violence. They start with love bombing, with creating a fantasy so perfect you'll do anything to preserve it, including ignoring red flags." Maya's phone buzzed again with another call from Ethan. This time she turned it off completely. "What happens now?" she asked, looking lost. "Now we get you somewhere safe, somewhere he won't think to look," Clara replied. "My friend Zoe has a lake house about 2 hours from the city. You can stay there while we sort things out legally." "And the wedding?" "Consider it officially canceled," Clara said firmly. "I'll handle the vendors and deposits. Most have cancellation policies, and those that don't, well, it's a small price to pay for your safety." Maya nodded, then looked at Clara with fresh tears. "I'm so sorry. For not believing you, for dismissing what you went through, for," her voice broke, "for envying what you had with him. I thought you had this perfect love that somehow went wrong, when really you were surviving hell every day." "You have nothing to apologize for," Clara assured her. "Ethan is a master manipulator. He fooled me too. Remember? For much longer than he fooled you." As they packed Maya's few belongings and prepared to leave the hotel, Clara felt a weight lifting from her shoulders. Not just because Maya was safe now, but because in helping her friend escape, Clara had finally completed her own healing journey. 3 months later, Clara and Maya sat on the deck of Zoe's lake house, watching the sunset paint the water in shades of gold and crimson. The peaceful scene was a stark contrast to the legal battle they'd been fighting since the night of the engagement party. "Alex called," Clara said, passing Maya a mug of tea. "The judge granted the permanent restraining order. Ethan can't come within 500 feet of you, contact you directly or through third parties, or mention you in any public statements." Maya exhaled slowly, relief evident in her posture. "It's really over then." "That part is," Clara confirmed, "though the civil suit might drag on a bit longer." After documenting Ethan's harassment, the hundreds of calls and texts, the flowers and gifts sent despite Maya's explicit requests to be left alone, the coincidental appearances at places she frequented, they had enough evidence for both the restraining order and a civil suit alleging emotional distress and harassment. What had surprised them both was how quickly other women had come forward once news of the lawsuit became public. 3 former employees, an ex-girlfriend from before Clara, and even Ethan's college sweetheart all shared similar stories of control, manipulation, and abuse. "I still can't believe he showed up at my parents' house," Maya said, shaking her head at the memory. "As if my father would somehow convince me to go back to him." "Classic abuser tactic," Clara replied. "When direct control fails, they try to use family pressure or social embarrassment to force compliance." "Well, it backfired spectacularly," Maya said with a small smile. "Dad may have been impressed by Ethan's business acumen, but he draws the line at anyone making his daughter cry. I thought he was going to physically throw Ethan off the property." Clara laughed softly, remembering the furious call from Maya's father after that incident. The distinguished professor of economics had gone from considering Ethan a suitable match for his daughter to threatening legal action of his own if Ethan ever contacted their family again. "How are you feeling about going back to the city next week?" Clara asked, studying her friend's face for signs of anxiety. Maya considered the question. "Nervous but ready. I can't hide forever, and my work at the foundation is important to me." In the months since leaving Ethan, Maya had thrown herself into her role at the Children's Literacy Foundation with renewed passion, developing programs for children affected by domestic violence. The work had become part of her healing process, a way to transform her painful experience into something meaningful. "Besides," Maya added with determination, "I refuse to let him limit my life any more than he already has. The restraining order means he's the one who has to adjust his movements, not me." Clara nodded, proud of her friend's resilience. "And you'll be staying with me until your new apartment is ready. Safety in numbers." "Speaking of safety in numbers," Maya said, her tone lightening, "Alex certainly seems concerned about yours. He's called to check in almost daily." Clara felt her cheeks warm. "He's just being thorough. It's his job." Maya teased. "And I suppose the dinner he invited you to next week is also just his job?" "It's a professional courtesy," Clara insisted, though her smile betrayed her. The unexpected connection with Alex had been a bright spot in these difficult months. His steady support and quiet strength provided a stark contrast to Ethan's volatile intensity. "Well, I think it's perfect," Maya declared. "After everything we've been through, we deserve men who build us up instead of breaking us down." They fell silent for a moment, watching as the last sliver of sun disappeared below the horizon, leaving the lake in peaceful twilight. "I've been thinking about what you said that day at the hotel," Maya said finally. "About abusers starting with love bombing, creating a fantasy so perfect you'll ignore the red flags." "What about it?" Clara asked. "I think that's what I need to share with other women. The warning signs that come before the obvious abuse." Maya turned to face her friend. "We're taught to look for the big red flags, violence, extreme jealousy, isolation. But by then, you're already trapped in their web." Clara nodded in understanding. The subtle control disguised as care. The criticism framed as helping you improve. The jealousy presented as devotion. "Exactly," Maya agreed. "I'm developing a program for the foundation, workshops for young women about healthy relationships versus controlling ones. Would you consider speaking at the first one? Sharing your experience?" The request caught Clara by surprise. For years, she'd kept her history with Ethan private, sharing it only with her closest friends and therapist. The shame and self-doubt that often plague abuse survivors had kept her silent, even as she rebuilt her life. "I know it's asking a lot," Maya added quickly, "and I understand if you're not ready." Clara thought about the women who had come forward after Maya filed her lawsuit, how each voice added strength to the others. She thought about how alone she had felt during her relationship with Ethan, convinced that no one would believe her word against his. "I'll do it," she decided. "If sharing my story helps even one woman recognize the danger signs before it's too late, it's worth it." Maya squeezed her hand in gratitude. "Thank you for this, and for not giving up on me even when I couldn't see the truth." "That's what real friendship is," Clara replied simply. "Seeing each other's worth even when we can't see it ourselves." As darkness settled over the lake, they remained on the deck, two survivors planning how to transform their pain into purpose, their trauma into triumph. The path ahead wouldn't be easy. Ethan's wealth and influence ensured that, but they would face it together, stronger for having weathered the storm. 2 weeks later, Clara stood before a room of young women at the Foundation's first healthy relationship workshop. Her hands trembled slightly as she adjusted the microphone, but her voice was steady as she began. 3 years ago, I fled my penthouse apartment at 2 in the morning with broken ribs, a split lip, and whatever belongings I could fit into one suitcase. I left behind a man who had once promised to love me forever, who had dazzled me with his charm and generosity before systematically dismantling everything I was. The room was silent, all eyes fixed on her as she continued. I'm not here to share the dramatic moments of abuse, the violence, the threats, the terror. Those came later. I'm here to talk about what came first. The red flags I ignored because they were wrapped in romance and luxury. For the next hour, Clara detailed the subtle progression of control in her relationship with Ethan. The lavish gifts that created obligation. The charming possessiveness that isolated her from friends. The constructive criticism that eroded her confidence. The financial control disguised as generosity. Abusers don't begin with violence, she explained. They begin by creating a beautiful cage, one gilded bar at a time, until you're surrounded by luxury but have nowhere to fly. When she finished speaking, the questions came, thoughtful, sometimes painful inquiries from women recognizing patterns in their own relationships or those of friends. Clara answered each one honestly, without shame or hesitation. As the workshop concluded, a young woman approached Clara privately, her eyes downcast. My boyfriend says I'm lucky to have him because no one else would put up with my flaws, she confessed quietly. I always thought that was just his way of saying he loves me despite my imperfections. Clara recognized the rationalization all too well. Love doesn't require you to feel lucky or grateful for basic respect, she said gently. Real love makes you feel valued for who you are, not despite it. The young woman nodded, tears gathering in her eyes. I think I need to make some changes. You're not alone, Clara assured her, providing information about support resources. And recognizing the pattern is the first step toward breaking it. Later that evening, as Clara and Maya debriefed over dinner, Maya raised her glass in a toast. To speaking truth, even when it's difficult. Especially when it's difficult. To rebuilding, Clara added, stronger and wiser than before. As they clinked glasses, Clara reflected on the journey that had brought them here. The pain hadn't disappeared. Trauma leaves scars that never fully fade, but it no longer defined her. She had transformed it into wisdom, into compassion, into purpose. And in doing so, she had reclaimed not just her life, but her power to shape it on her own terms. If the story resonated with you, please take a moment to like and subscribe to Timeless Love Tales with Mr. Harrison. Your support helps me continue sharing these important stories that might just change someone's life. Remember, true love doesn't diminish you. It expands who you are. It doesn't isolate you. It connects you more deeply to yourself and others. And it never, ever requires your silence or your suffering as proof of its worth. The most valuable thing we can offer each other isn't protection or provision. It's presence. The courage to see and be seen, to speak and be heard, to love and be loved not for what we can give or take, but for who we truly are. Thank you for listening to Clara and Maya's story. Until next time, this is Mr. Harrison reminding you that the most powerful love story you'll ever live is the one where you learn to love yourself enough to walk away from anyone who doesn't.